Hey guys, Tom here from Metalloud, and I just want to make a bit of a personal video right now. I just found out that the website GameTrailers.com is shutting down after 13 years. Now, I know probably a lot of you are thinking, what does it matter? It's just a gaming site, whatever. And if you follow me on social media, you've heard what I'm about to say before, but I kind of just want to talk about it. And again, this is a very personal video. I'm going to explain why that site is important to me and why I'm very upset that it's shutting down, because it is actually a part of my history, and I would not be here today. I would not be doing what I am doing today without that website. And here's what I mean. So let's go back a little bit to 2006. I was a sophomore in high school. I was kind of I believe I was ending my sophomore year in high school, and I can pinpoint the exact moment that I ended up on GameTrailers.com as far as the getting on to the community itself, which is where I want to go with this. So I found a trailer for the game Crisis, and it was a tech demo from GDC, Game Developers Conference 2006, where they showed off the amazing graphics engine behind that game. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a game that in real time really promised photorealism, and they came really close. There's actually, just off topic for a second on that game, there's actually maps you can download that mimic that look and feel of that trailer, where it's exactly as was promised in that trailer. Anyways, so I remember being so excited about that game and about the graphics technology, and I just wanted to talk about it so much. I had so much to say about it, but none of my friends really were as into gaming or tech or PCs as I was at that time. And I remember, like I said, I can pinpoint the exact moment. I was on the bus getting to school and picked up one of my friends. He got on the bus, and I tried to talk to him about it. I tried to tell him how excited I was and how awesome the game was going to be. And I could just tell that he was not into it at all, and definitely not as much as I was. So I gave up, and I went home, and I kind of thought, what can I do? So I noticed Game Trailers had a forum section for, community, for you to talk about these things. They had a section for Crisis. And I figured, what the hell? And that's where I created my first forum ID. And that was my first account on there. It was my first forum account, my first real foray into internet culture, I would say, as Washed123 was my gamer thing at the time. And I even remember I met so many people just from that one thread about Crisis who were into PC gaming and wanted to just talk about it so much. And I even had somebody who made me an avatar that I still use to this day, that on that site was just nice enough. I mean, it's really simple. I mean, sure, you just did it quick in Photoshop, and I probably can do it today. But the fact that somebody did that for me, just a stranger on the internet, was huge to me. And I realized that it was a place where, I wasn't rejected for liking video games, or especially PC gaming and graphics and technology. I wasn't rejected for that. Also, I found people who were into it as I was. I never felt like I was above anybody else when talking about these things, where, outside I could kind of get the impression that either people didn't care, or I'd talk about things and I, not to sound narcissistic, but I would know more than they did. And it kind of was a little bit annoying trying to carry on a conversation with somebody when they weren't as knowledgeable about the subjects we were talking about as I was. And to find a community where that was, my knowledge was on the low end of things, and I learned so much from people, was just huge for me, and that's what kind of kept me there. And from there, I mean, there's so many moments on the forums, good and bad. I mean, there's just so much that happened. There's these funny moments where people stole each other's avatars. At one point, somebody made a contest where you can win a custom avatar, and people basically just copied the image and stole it. And there were, the day GT lost all credibility, those jokes. There was Hammer Shell, the weird game idea we had about a turtle video game, where I believe it was started because somebody asked, does anybody remember this game? And it just blew up from there. I just still remember that. There were sorry, this is kind of personal for me, because I met so many of my friends on that site. I mean, people I would consider best friends, people I'm still friends with today, people I flew halfway across the country to see and to visit without ever meeting before in person. And, that's just huge to me, that I was able to find a community like that online. And that was something I started started getting into when I was 16, and here I am 10 years later, and it's still, those people are still with me today. And the reason I say I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because of, if it weren't for that site, I've been dealing with a lot of issues my entire life, with depression and suicide and things like that. And these are the people that talked me down, or just kept me going over, just reminding me of things, and just giving me a place to vent, and just accepting me and not making me feel like an outcast or anything like that, which a lot of times throughout high school I did. And just the fact that that community was there really kind of kept me going in life. It literally kept me alive, I would say. And it opened so many doors that I'm still here today. I mean, one of my favorite things about that site, one of my fondest memories, was after they introduced the podcast Invisible Walls, that inspired me to start my own own podcast called Hail to the Gamers, if anybody remembers that, briefly on the site. And at one point, we even had Shane Satterfield, who was editor-in-chief or owner of Game Trailers. He actually was the founder of Game Trailers, or one of the founders. He was actually on our podcast talking about Grand Theft Auto 4 before that game came out. And that was huge to me, that somebody who, in my mind, was that huge, important figure would take time out of his day to come onto a podcast. And it was just that kind of, but that was the community. That was the thing. Nobody was really above anybody else there. We were all in it together. And, you had friends, you had enemies. There were always groups that hated each other, whatever, but there was just so much there, and there was just so much of a community there. And that's what really I'm going all over the place with this, but that's what got me to stick with that site. And I started writing my music reviews on that site. We used to have blogs, and then they had a whole money system back then where you can win stuff. I actually still have a Game Trailer shirt that's way too small for me now. Used to be super skinny. You probably can't tell, but I was. That I got from and it was from anything. It was forum posting, or making a blog, or making a user movie, liking things. Everything kind of gave you these points which you could use. Eventually that system kind of went away because it was abused and led to some very not great things happening on the site. But the fact that it kind of drove you to be creative and do things to get noticed on the site with your blogs and things like that, I started writing reviews of games. I remember the first one I ever did was for Half-Life 2. Then I did another one for Call of Duty 2 when that came out, and I started writing my music reviews on there. I don't remember my first ones. I'm not sure. It might have been Mindless Self-Indulgence album If, which came out in 2007. I reviewed that on there and posted on my blog. That was one of my first ones. I reviewed AFI's Crash Love on there. It was really where I got my start, and I met a lot of people. We used to have this thread called What Are You Listening To? And I discovered so much music through there, music that I listen to today. I can attribute listening to The Architects from there. I can attribute listening to At the Drive-In from there. I can attribute Protest the Hero from there. The Ocean, so many of those, so much music I listened to today was recommendations I got from people on that site, and it drove me to the passion that I have about music today, and the fact that other people were writing about it inspired me to start writing about it and learning from them, learning from their kind of not necessarily their style, but just the way they described things or the way they did things, and drew inspiration from that. So literally, I would not be here physically if it were not for the community and the people I met from that site. But also, I wouldn't be doing these music reviews without that site. So you might not have gone on that site. You might hear game trailers and just think it's a silly video game website. But that site was more than just that to me and to a lot of people. And the other thing is the fact that, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I've been hearing, that the company that bought game trailers from Viacom, called Defy Media, basically gave the staff, the wonderful staff, the people there who were just so enthusiastic about gaming as well, and so passionate about things, people like Kyle Bossman and Michael Huber, they dedicated their lives to giving us content and entertainment. And Brandon, oh my god, Brandon Jones, who is Game Trailers, he is literally the voice of Game Trailers, who I have not found a, and this probably sounds weird, but I've not found a more enjoyable voice to listen to when it comes to video game reviews. He just has a knack for that, and if anybody's looking for voice work, anything like that, Brandon Jones, look him up. He's a fantastic voice actor. And they gave them hours that the site was closing down. I had no idea. I don't think anybody had any idea until we started seeing posts from them talking about how they were leaving game trailers, how game trailers were shutting down. There was no big announcement. I even looked at the forums and the site just to see if there was anything, and it looks business as usual. There's no way to tell, but they announced it, and unfortunately that game trailers is shutting down, and that's just horrible that Defy Media would do that. I mean, it's one thing if your business, from a business that you have to shut down things, you have to streamline, and it's understandable that in this world today, I mean, they talked about in their announcement how when game trailers started, there really weren't any big gaming things on YouTube or anything like that. There was no Twitch. Nothing was really competing with video content for video games, and game trailers kind of changed all that with their site and their videos and their original content, and now there's just a sea of copycats and other sites doing things, and YouTube and Twitch and everything else, and it's understandable that that's going to cut into your content and your revenue as a business. But the fact that they only gave them hours to just say, hey, site shutting down, sorry, that's really kind of obnoxious and shitty. I mean, I don't know what there's got to be, I know there's probably not, because they did it, obviously, but there should be some law against that. I mean, how fair is that to say, you know, that income that you had, well, it's gone now. Fine. Like, this was a real job. This was not, this isn't just people playing video games. It's not just a silly hobby. This was a real job. That was a real site that people were going to, and it was getting money, and these were people sitting down and creating this content and writing and acting and editing and doing all these things. This is not just some silly thing that you can just kind of dismiss. And they were given just hours to find out that they no longer had a job. And it wasn't because of anything that they did wrong, it was because the site itself was shutting down. And that's not a decision that you just make overnight, and especially a company like Defy Media. I mean, that big of a site, it wasn't like it was Game Trailers was privately owned and something happened. This was Defy Media owned it, they bought it, they almost seemed like they were turning it around too, which is the weirdest part to me. The old forums were back, they reactivated accounts, they reactivated there was so much that they were bringing back that kind of Viacom destroyed in their takeover, and it seemed like they were really kind of just getting Game Trailers back to where it was, and then it's gone now. And it just really kind of sucks. I mean, that was a huge part of my life. I mean, there was a point where people call it the Great Purge, where especially the forums kind of got destroyed and everyone left. But for a while, I would say 2006 to at least 2009, there was that was my life. I mean, that was a huge part of my life. That was what inspired me to do a lot of things, talk to people, meet people, find out about different opinions, about different things that people do. I mean, talking to people all over the world, not just, this isn't just the US, this isn't just a small community of people. I mean, we're talking worldwide, huge gamers that are just so passionate about things. And of every forum I've been to, it was probably, as bad as it got, it was probably one of the more civil ones that, people would go to. I mean, it wasn't GameSpot forums where everything just evolved into a flame war and it was just awful. Game Trailers was pretty good. I mean, the moderators were actually real people who were fun. They didn't have any weird political agendas, and they felt like real people. Where mods in a lot of sites kind of just feel like these cold, calculating individuals. I actually was a mod on Game Trailers for a brief period of time. They were looking to expand the mods from, they used to just have mods and admins and staff, and that was it. And that's who kind of patrolled everything. But what they wanted to do was have sectional mods. So for instance, I was a mod of the PC section. I only had control over the PC section. I could close threads, ban people, things like that, but only in the PC section. And I was the first sectional mod, along with another user called Dre, who can fuck off, whatever. But that was my first thing that I had power, I had control, and the fact that, I know it sounds evil, but what I mean by that is the mods that were already there and the admin that were already there felt confident enough in me to make me a mod of that site. Now, unfortunately, I was also about 17 at that time, so I was kind of an asshole, and I did get demodded and banned, which was funny to me because I got a message saying, you've been banned, and then it was, oh, you've been unbanned. I was like, okay, that's cool. And it said, you've been demodded. I was like, oh shit, you've been permabanned. Anyways, just there's so much that happened in that community, and I mean, I'm sure if you have gone to that site, and a lot of people I know today have gone, so I'm sure some of you, at least some of you watching this video, did go to that site and did experience it. So I'm sure you have memories as well of this site, but I just kind of wanted to do this just as a personal kind of rest in peace Game Trailers. These are my thoughts on them, and it just kind of sucks. If you have something like that's been part of your life, and something that's not just been a part of your life, but the fact that it's contributed so much to my life, to the fact where I like I said, I literally would not be doing this, and I would not be here without the people I met through that site. It's sad to see something like that go. I mean, it happens, yeah, but it just kind of sucks. So if you guys have any memories of Game Trailers, if you've ever gone onto that site, if you are part of that community I was talking about, let me know down below in the comments. I mean, how do you feel about this site shutting down? And again, do you have any memories of it?